my real passion is to persevere together with my clients to really to stay on some things and not to lose hope if changes need time. So because I'm very convinced that we can change, and neuroscience supports it, but we need time and passion for this. Okay, so I already talked about my silent check-in. So I will give you kind of a minute to collect your thoughts and focus what you will take away from the session, why you have registered. Okay, so take your time. Okay, so I hope you feel, even if it was silent, checked into this webinar and this hour about limiting beliefs. And so I will move on. What are we dealing with? So this is a model which is not invented by me, but it's that we are mind, heart, or mind, soul, and body. This is common knowledge. And on the mind side, we have beliefs, thoughts, interpretations, and perceptions of self. We all know that we have emotions, sensations, feelings, and that we have behavioral patterns, which sometimes are very practical. If we have this kind of autopilot, for example, driving a car, we don't have to think about it, but this is a behavioral pattern we have learned and which is ingrained and that we can use without losing too much energy. And surely you also know that that all this triangle corners interact with each other, and we want to change something. We can start at each corner. We can start looking at our behavioral patterns. We can start feeling our emotions. We can look at our beliefs. And today, with this limiting beliefs, we focus on the beliefs. Naturally, as I already said, these triangle, the corners interact. So if we have a belief, we also have an emotion and perhaps a will to do something, and the other way around. But today I want to focus on the beliefs, the limiting beliefs. Okay. What are they? So I want to give some kind of definition. What are limiting beliefs? Limiting beliefs are kind of stories we tell ourselves about who we are. And I added, when these are limiting beliefs and not supporting beliefs, we will talk about supporting beliefs a little later. Limiting beliefs are kind of deformed stories. They are kind of a filter through which we perceive the world. For example, if I have the fixed belief, the limiting belief that I'm a stupid person, I will have a look at the words through this filter, and I will think that I'm not able to go to higher education, for example, because I'm too stupid to do this. Another thing about the limiting beliefs is that they feel so plausible that we think it's the absolute truth. It feels like I know it, it's like this. And limiting beliefs evoke negative emotions at the beginning. During our lives, we can suppress these negative emotions that these limiting beliefs feel like normal to us. We no longer feel the negative emotions. We have the impression it is like it is. And I want to challenge this with this webinar. As I already said, if they are suppressed, they are often subconscious. Sometimes we knew them and we suppress them, and sometimes we've never known that we have this limiting belief, but nonetheless, they are very influential. So it's important to know as much as possible about the limiting beliefs which I have on board, so to say. And the other thing is that these limiting beliefs don't have to be about ourselves only. They could be about how the world works. So for me, the most interesting limiting belief is the one of the flat earthless, the people who think that it's a lie that the world is a sphere and that it's flat, and they have also and they think it's the absolute truth. So that's for me very, very interesting, because they think that all these photographs from the ISS or something are all fake. Very interesting. This is a limiting belief, yes. So, okay, and where do they come from, these limiting beliefs? What are the origins of it? Personal beliefs. We have personal beliefs that arise from experiences we have made, the personal experiences we made as children, or for example in the puberty, are very influential for the rest of our life if we do nothing about them. And then you have this family narratives, which can also be limiting beliefs. We are a family of, as in my family, we are a family of people who are very often ill. We are a family of ill people. So it was very difficult for me to have the idea, perhaps it's not true. Then society and social circles can impose standards about this. And what I think is very, very interesting field are the religious beliefs. My father-in-law was a Lutheran archbishop, and the whole family has very deep religious thoughts. It's interesting because this was not the world I grew up in. And religious beliefs are very difficult because you don't deal with from human to human, but you deal from human to the divinity, to the divine, and that's even deeply rooted than other things. Okay, so I hope you get an idea of the origins of limiting beliefs. So, as I already said at the beginning, I want to guide you through a self-reflection, and this is my first task. Please write down the limiting beliefs you know about yourself, and I think okay. So you've started the list. If you have to write down more limiting beliefs, you can do it while I show you some examples for limiting beliefs. How did I choose which limiting beliefs to show to you? There are some which were very important for myself. For example, the second one, he who does not work shall not eat, was a narrative in our family. So it was very difficult for me to, as a young person, to relax. And when I was 18 and didn't have a boyfriend, I had the belief that I will spend my whole life alone. It was the emotion was to be very sad. And now I'm married for 38 years. Just this belief was, because my idea was to give you some ideas how to deal with limiting beliefs once you have them transparent. So take your list, and I give you another 2 minutes. Take your list and question if this is really reality, or if this is a limited belief from your inner child, which has not understood that now you are an adult person. And check if this questioning already changes something. Okay, I give you time to do it. Okay. Well, the next task for you is to decide which of your limiting beliefs you really want to transform into supporting beliefs. Perhaps some of them seem too huge to transform them, or perhaps you like them, or I don't know. So decide what you really want to transform. Okay, so please come to an end. And I show you examples for supporting beliefs. These are only examples, and the ones of you who work as coaches know that it is important to help the client to find the own expressions which really mean something to them. And one can, when I work, 90% of my work is in presence, and you can really see that the embodiment changes when the person has found the right supporting belief. It's kind of a relief, a joy, thing like that. So now it's your task to find positive affirmations to counteract the existing limiting beliefs you have on your list. And for this, I will give you a little more time, 3 minutes plus, to find positive affirmations that really feel good. Okay. Perhaps it isn't the first time that you made an exercise like this, but the interesting thing is we often have this new beliefs, and then old patterns take hold again. Because these old patterns are often rooted for decades in our brain, and saying a new belief once is no great use when there is a stress situation. Perhaps you know this. So the interesting thing is how to counteract that, and how come that we have this. So the background is that I think all of you know this, that in stressful situations, we jump back in, or our reptile brain is busy with this fight, flight, or freeze reaction, and there is no capacity to use or to think about the newly created belief. And if we are often in stressful situations, we know this from neuroscience, this shapes our brain. And how to deal with this? So as I already said, often we have to practice over a long period, and I have some ideas how long this period should be to change such structures. Or there are, in an MRT, you can have a look at the brain and see if there are changes in the brain structures. So, and now I will introduce you to something that Alex, who is also Alex Patient, who is also present today, already knows. That I had this training with Dr. Michael Bohne, and unfortunately he does it only in German. It's a psychological embodiment course, and he introduced me to this tool. So it is not my invention or something, but I use it a lot with clients, and so I wanted to share it with you. Okay, what is it? It's the even so sentence. The problem with limiting beliefs we don't want to have is that we try to get rid of them and to suppress them and something like that, but that often does not function, but because, as I already said, in stress situations, all patterns take hold. So the idea of the even so sentences is that the obstructive belief can live longer somehow, but is balanced by the second phase of the sentence. So, for example, even so, I think I'm too old for this hobby. I make my own choices about what is right for me. So this I'm too old for this hobby I don't have to suppress it. I'm very aware that I have this limiting belief, but I try to balance it with a second part of the sentence, which helps me to balance it. And there is the theory of fundamental needs, that we all have as human beings, same fundamental needs, but in every one of us, they have a different kind of doses. So if autonomy is my fundamental need, it's about the own choices. If relationship to myself is my fundamental need, perhaps I need another second sentence. Even so, I believe I will never be able to do that. From now on, I respect and appreciate myself just as I am. Because if I can convince myself that I appreciate myself just as I am, perhaps some months later, I'm not so sure if this I will never be able to do that is really the absolute truth. So you have to do it many times, then you can realize that there are changes. And if safety is my fundamental need, I can say something like, even though I'm convinced I always have to hurry to get my work done, I can still choose my actions wisely. So this is an idea, and we had surely one has to train, but in my coaching practice, I realized that, or I made the experience that it's very helpful for clients. For example, I have a very well-known and famous female consultant. And if you read her LinkedIn posts and everything and the videos and something, you would never suspect that she had the limiting belief that she is not good enough. And with this method, I think she needed more than half a year to do this, because she realized during the day how often she has limiting beliefs about herself. And immediately she counteracted them with the even so sentence, and by rubbing the self-affirmation point. It's here, yeah. And it has to do with Chinese acupuncture, but Michael Bohne, my teacher, says it's very important to have this to touch yourself, to root more deeply the new beliefs in your brain. And as this client, this female client of mine, told me, it helped her a lot to do it. And now she no longer has to do it physically, because she did it physically so often that now she can imagine it. Every time she has the self-doubt things, she said, oh, even so, I realize that, again, I'm doubting myself. I really appreciate and respect myself as I am. Okay. And it is important to repeat this affirmation loud, that it really gets rooted in your brain. And Michael Bohne has a scientific research with the University of Hanover, where they put people in the MRT and look how brain structures change. And it needs at least 6 to 8 weeks daily practice that you can see in this visual MRT that brain structures change. So if you want to change something, you need to make a strong decision. From today on, for 8 weeks, I will practice this newly found supported belief with the even so sentence twice a day. Okay, I'm very interested in our discussion at the end of my presentation. How this feels for you? What you think about it? Okay, so only using the new belief without rubbing it in, it has not this chance of working. Okay, so this was the second approach. So now it's your turn to formulate an even so sentence with 1 or 2 of your listed beliefs. So good luck. And I go back to show you the example sentences. Okay. So this second parts of the sentence are only ideas. So you can be very creative. So for example, one can also, when relationship to self is the fundamental need, you can also say something like, I love and respect myself as I am. Or if autonomy is the fundamental need, you can then, I'm entitled to create my own space, or I'm entitled to create the space that I need around me. Or if safety is the fundamental need, I can still live in security or something. Yeah. The important criteria is if it really feels in the body like a good, it makes a good feeling. Oh, that's great. And so it's a work of the coach to help the client find the right expression. First, what is the real fundamental need, or the hugest fundamental need, and then what could be a good second sentence. So this was one idea how to deal with this limiting beliefs. Now the third approach, I will share with you some ideas we cannot do during this webinar, only to give the impulse. And some of them you perhaps as coaches you already use or know the tools. So the third approach is the concept of the inner team. So the book I show you is from Friedemann Schulz von Thun. He is still among the living, but he is a retired professor of communication science of the Hamburg University. And I think he has a huge influence on the German coach and trainer scene, because we all know the works of Schulz von Thun. He published lots of books, but only in German. And the one I showed you here is the only available in English, is the 6 Tools for Clear Communication. And there is only a little part about the inner team. The multitude of inner voices and opinions. But there are other ideas. So all of you are acquainted with transactional analysis. Eric Berne, who had this idea from, I think, from Sigmund Freud about the superego, the ego, and the it. And he translated it in the parent, the adult, and the child ego states. So there are I wanted to show there are more models about inner team. Perhaps you know about the inner child and things like that. I had a client, or I still have a client, and she thought the only inner personality is the inner child, and then there is nobody else there. It's a black room, something like that. And when we worked on it, she realized that she had lots of inner voices and inner ego states. Then from a therapeutic background, it's Watkins and Watkins who had worked with the ego states of psychiatric people in psychiatry. And they tell a lot about that is that the inner ego states relate to one another much as family members would. Perhaps some of you are acquainted with Shirzad Kameen, a New York best-selling author who has also developed an inner team concept, which he calls the judge, the saboteurs, and the sage. For me, there is a difference, because in Shirzad Kameen, I find this approach very interesting. But he always talks about a war in your head, about fighting, and that you have to, and that the saboteurs lie and something like that. The Friedemann Schulz von Thun idea is that all our inner states want us to survive. They want something good for us. you don't have to kill them somehow. You have to understand them, what they want for you, and you have to go into a dialogue with them. So last kind of exercise, that the members of our inner team often have fixed beliefs that they whisper or even shout to us. So take your list of limiting beliefs and ask yourself, who among your inner team members whispers this limited belief to you? Can you discern somebody? For example, the limiting beliefs I mentioned at the beginning, I can hear my mother's voice. She is dead for now. She died 10 years ago, but she's still very present in my brain. Okay, I give you some time. Okay. So this is a question I often ask my coaching clients, or during the sessions or as a homework. Yeah, but what to do with it? When you have this more clear ideas about who in your inner team is holding on to which limited beliefs, what to do with it, and how to continue working with it. And the whole approach is about to have an inner dialogue between these different team members, ego states, or and you can use a lot of tools you use between people, like in conflict mediation or in open dialogue, like Martin Buber and Daniel Bohm ideas. But you can also do it with the inner team members. And as I have training in Gestalt therapy, I often use the empty chair technique to have a dialogue between, for example, the inner judge, which is often very keen with limiting beliefs, and the inner mother or something. So it's a very creative work to find together with the client where is the hugest tension, inner tension between which voices, and then to try to get them into a dialogue which transforms and changes something. So, and family, I'm not an expert in family constellation work, but I often use ground anchors where I write also paper the names of these different inner team members, and then I have the clients stand on them and talk from this perspective to the other perspective. And this is, as I already said, you never know what will be the end of this kind of work, but as it is also a work where you have to embody something, I have the impression that this is really sustainable, because if you only in your brain have a new belief against your limiting belief, this is only in your head, and this is not a approach of the whole person. So it's very important to get this into the whole person, and for example, to find a power pose or something like that. So okay, this is the last slide of my content, and I'm very interested in our discussion now. For this, I have formulated some questions for you to prepare our discussions. What will you take away from this webinar? Do you have questions? I see that there is something in the chat. What would you like to pursue further? And is there any feedback you would like to give to me? And I leave the slide on for some seconds. And then, because I want to end the slide share, that I can see more of you and that we can start the discussion. So what will you take away? Are there any questions? Was there an impulse you want to pursue further? And is there any feedback? Okay, good. So thank you for listening and working with me. And I stop the slide share and I hand over to Jeff to facilitate the discussion.
So Harriet, thank you very much for that. I personally found that the longer that session went on, the more thoughts came to mind and the clearer some of the thoughts came to be. So having the time to work through that, I found extremely helpful. Any questions for Harriet?
Harriet, sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot. Well, I probably am putting you on the spot, but can you actually show us where this point is?
It's here. Here.
Like there.
Or if you have left-handed on the other side. So Michael said the most important is to touch yourself. You can also make like a self-compassion gest, yeah. But the thing is to kind of disturb old patterns. And if you say something and crank here, that your brain thinks, hey, I don't understand. what's the and therefore it disturbs your brain, and then new beliefs can hold better. Or did this answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Harriet.
Yes.
Oh yes, thanks for your talk, Harriet. It's really inspiring, and I appreciate all the useful ideas on how to overcome limiting beliefs. When you started, one of the things that I was thinking when you say identify the limiting beliefs, I realized that there might be limiting beliefs that I may not be conscious of that was holding me back. And I was trying to think, how could I uncover, if you like, the subconscious or unconscious beliefs, maybe from my parents when I was, 1 or 2 that I can't really bring forward, but it's impacting my life. Is there a way you could uncover the beliefs that you might not be conscious of, but they're holding you back and you need to surface them?
Okay, so one idea is to make it the other way around. So if you have a look at which personalities live in your inner team, then sometimes you have personalities there, and when you are conscious of them, you hear what they say. Or you can, if you realize, for example, you have you have a contact to your inner child, and you can ask your inner child, what is difficult for you, for example, and then you can have a dialogue with your inner child, and then perhaps some of these things which were subconscious till now emerge, or with the inner team, like Sherzad Kamin on his website, I think it's Positive Intelligence or something, positiveintelligence.com. You can make a test which inner saboteurs are acting inside you, and then you can, and then he describes what this inner saboteur does, and then perhaps you also have a better idea about subconscious limiting beliefs, or only to give a few ideas. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you very much.
Harriet, when you talked about fundamental needs and you talked about autonomy, relationship and safety, where did that come from?
So when we talk about fundamental needs, we all, I think many of us think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I have that there's this need theory. There are a lot of studies and things like that, and these are the most fundamental beliefs which all humans have in every culture, and so. Or there are even people who say we only have 2 fundamental beliefs, which is autonomy and being part of something. So, but in this in this work we do with Michael, we talk about head, heart, and belly. And so in the head, there is the thinking about security. In the heart, there is the, I can't remember at the moment, but I can give you, send you a flip chart where this is expressed. It's also this trinity of heart, mind, and I don't know the best translations in English. I realize
Okay.
now.
We'll, if we see the chart,
Herz,
we'll put it out in the
Kopf
show
und
notes.
Bauch.
Head, heart, and guts is fine.
Oh,
Yeah, works for us.
head, guts, and
Head,
head,
heart,
heart
and
and guts. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Kay, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Harriet. That was really interesting. And I was just wondering, as you were talking and going through, especially about this kind of, the self-affirmation and how this relates to emotional freedom tapping. Don't know if you've come across emotional freedom tapping.
So my teacher, Michael Bohne, he came from Gallo and the emotional freedom techniques. And he, for decades now, he developed his own system. And we also tap. Yeah, but this is one part of this of his PEP ideas, and I often realize in my coaching work with business people that I do not tap, yeah, but that this is a kind of a tool you can use on yourself. This.
Mm.
Yeah. And I realized that with male people, they often have more than women. I don't know why. I have often I have to touch myself. Oh. And then I let them feel that the Christine Neff's self-compassion hand here. I let them feel that it feels good to feel the own warmth. And so, okay. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you. And I suppose it kind of helps to think about, you started off early on with your slide where you've got the kind of beliefs and the thoughts, and then the emotions and the feelings, and then the behavioral patterns. And perhaps with either it personally or with clients, it's for some people more difficult to start with the beliefs and the thoughts, but there's different routes in which then could lead on to exploring the limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to comment on that point about the touching part. So Harriet did this with me, and that was something I struggled with for the reasons mentioned about, it feels a bit weird to be touching myself sometimes like that. And what I found really useful about today was how you explained how it disrupts the brain's patterns. And actually having a rational reason for me to do that makes it easier for me to do this or something else that works for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I'm going to repeat that with a client, I'll make sure I include that explanation of why am I going to do this? Why does it make sense, particularly to rational analytical types that may be struggling otherwise?
When we all go away from here, we will have conversations with other people who will say, you've been on a webinar with Harriet. What did you talk about? If there's one thing in particular that struck you from today that you found helpful, what would that one thing be?
I actually found the session really quite profound and quite deep, Harriet, so thank you. But I think right early on, when you had that sort of the triangle, it just clicked with me, and I wrote it down straight away that I just live in the behavioural patterns so much, and that maybe I do too much doing and actions, and maybe don't reflect on my beliefs and feelings and emotions, and it did make me wonder whether I do that to deflect from doing it, to deflect from thinking about it. So then as I went on, it was actually quite a deep session for me, so thank you. It's given me some good things to take away.
Hey, thanks, Harriet. That was really useful. I think for me, it kind of built on what we were talking yesterday about the AI and where do humans and AI and coaching go forward. As some of the ideas were familiar and some were new, but it's taken that time to actually do it, that we know this stuff, but when do we actually go through and think about it for ourselves and put that lens on us, and your care and your consideration and pulling it all together and actually making that space so we do it is really valuable. And would I do that if it was an AI person that I didn't have any kind of relationship or feeling towards? So yeah, so it added on from yesterday as well, and lots of new thinking. So thank you, Harriet.
Yeah, I think as Diane said, the opportunity to actually put it into practice within what you created a really kind of safe and kind of time-free environment. For me, I was trying to use it to reflect, to identify the self-limiting beliefs that will or potentially influence my own coaching style and practice. So that was incredibly helpful for me. Thank you.
All right, just before we wind up, Harriet, is there a final thought you'd like to leave us with?
Go on and practice.
That's good. We could take that forward. Well, Harriet, thank you very much. Much appreciated for you taking the time to put that together and for sharing.
Thank you very much. It was really fun to work with you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thanks very much, Harriet.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you.